Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today, in today's video, I thought we would do something slightly different. With Operation Frost upon us, this gives me a unique opportunity to have a look at multiple vehicles at the same time in a singular review. So pretty much what we're going to do today is, in this video, we're going to have a look at the 98-footer PT811, the T.I.Z.M.A, and then also the QF 3.7 RAM. Now, the reason why I'm doing it like this is just to see if you guys like this kind of style going forward. We're going to be doing some gameplay stuff and some general audio things. If you like this style of video, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to make more of them. Obviously, a lot of you have been asking for gameplay elements in the videos for a long time, so it's time to give you some. So therefore, this is what this video is for. So also, there will be little links in the description to parts of the video discussing each vehicle. So if you are only interested in, let's say, the 3.7 RAM, then you can skip to that part, so just go to the description below. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. Let me know what you think of it, and enjoy! So the first vehicle we're going to have a look at today is the 94-foot PT811. This is the naval vehicle that you can get if you complete 5 of these stars for Operation Frost, and what you find from it is a very, very nice PT boat. It sits itself at battle rating 3.7 and rank 2 in the American tree, so therefore it's going to be good for researching all of the destroyers of rank 3 and anything below it. It's also got a really light repair cost on it of not even 3000 SL, so therefore you're going to be able to make a lot of silver lines through this. And also, being a PT boat, it's incredibly fast and it has some nice little factors to it. It definitely has some downsides as well, which we'll go through, but mainly if we just have a look at this generic vehicle, you're getting a lot of really nice stuff that emphasizes what the American PT boats are about. A lot of these American PT boats have decent firepower in the form of either a lot of guns or very good guns. So what I mean by this is this 94-footer has access to 2 40mm Bofors, one on the back, one on the front. They have a general distance damage range of up to about 2.5 kilometers, really powerful, and what they can do is they can outrange a lot of vehicles which generally you will find at a similar BR to this, meaning that if you run into anything which mainly has to use 50 cals or maybe something like a PGO2 with the minigun, you can outrange it with the Bofors. So because of the speed of the machine in arcade being around 143 kilometers an hour when it's maxed out, you can extend the distance and generally deal with a lot of the smaller boats that you'll face in great ways using the Bofors, because you can outrange them, do a ton of damage, and also the Bofors you don't have to worry about reload or anything like that. On top of the main armament of the Bofors, you also have 2 sets of dual-mounted 20mm. Now these I've generally just used for AA support. I've never personally used them as a primary because the 40mm are so good, and on top of it they never really get knocked out, so you never have to change to them. Instead I just let them pretty much just do some AA support along with the 81mm. The 81mm to me feels like the kind of useless part of this machine. I've never really understood the use of this 81mm. It never has been something that takes over the game. When it comes to naval in arcade or realistic, it's just something that is kind of there every so often firing away, so that's what I leave it to do. Looking at the survivability of the 94-footer, that is where the problems start creeping in for the machine. So because it's at 3.7, the main problem you have is you are on that barrier between destroyers and PT boats. And since this is a very good machine to face other PT boats in, and generally to face battle boats as well, because you can get away from them with your superior speed and also outrange them with the Bofors, against destroyers that's not so easy to do, because of the addition of such as the hull brake mechanic, which was refined in update 1.95. What they actually did was any machine which has 100mm guns or more, if they hit a machine such as the 94-footer, it will instantly die. This is why K2s have once again become a problem to a lot of PT boats, because they get to spawn in that battle boat PT boat area, and also you'll get donked across the map by destroyers in the 94-footer, even though you're going incredibly fast, because they don't really even have to hit you. If they land shots near you and it splashes enough into you, you will get hull broken. So survivability wise, your only survivability in this machine is its speed. You only have 17 crew, you don't have any armor really, but speed wise you can dip, duck, dodge and dive, and of course dodge again, and that pretty much means that you can get away from anything as long as you react fast enough to what is going on. And if you can keep everything at a range of around 2 kilometers to 2.5 kilometers, you can do damage to them while they're struggling to do damage to you. Now, there is inherent problems when it comes to these PT boats facing such stuff as the destroyers. The amount of damage a destroyer can put out, especially around the 4.0 area, is going to be so much more than their 94-footer. There is nothing you can do to try and address this balance apart from get close to it and try to torpedo it. But what I would say is, instead of trying to take them on head on, instead of trying to be that David versus Goliath, try and move away to different parts of the map and influence them in better places. One of the things that we've seen added to War Thunder over the most recent updates, such as in the forms of maps, is much larger maps. Such as Japan, such as the New Zealand map as well, and also some of the other maps. We are getting these larger, more expansive maps, and what this means is you get more space for a PT boat like this to be taken out as a first spawn, to cap zones quickly and either use it to get into a plane or to set your team up in a positive position, because you're able to move around the map a lot faster than your opponents. On top of this as well, it means that if you see that certain areas need more support compared to, before, then you can get to those areas, whereas other ships may struggle. You are generally at least twice as fast as a lot of the machines that you face in this, and therefore you can easily just run circles around them. You've just got to make sure that you are the one who is using that to your advantage and putting yourself in the positions to be able to put yourself at an advantage over the enemies. Now, one of the things that you also have at your disposal is the torpedoes. These are 569mm Mark 13s, and the main problem that they have, because I thought, you know what, I could use these as a general thing against, a lot of destroyers. The main problem is they only travel 5 kilometers, 5.21 kilometers to be exact. That is not far enough to be away from a destroyer without it having the ability to donk you. So for me, these should be used strategically to block off areas which are close to you, which you're going to find PT boats and battle boats in, so you can force them into areas where you can attack them, where you have the advantage. These should not be used against destroyers. These should not be used to try and snipe, destroyers. Instead, just let them play their game over there against your destroyers, and you play in the areas where you can be most effective, which is generally in the shallows and running around like a crazy man. Overall, I've really enjoyed my time in this machine. I just really wish that there was some kind of barrier between PT boats and destroyers, because even with this one, which I would class as one of the best PT boats in game when it comes to its weaponry, when it comes to its speed, and when it comes to its playstyle, it still has inherent problems against even the starter destroyers, which are not going to be addressed. So yeah, overall, very fun vehicle, enjoyed it a lot. I would definitely say it is worth it to grind it in Operation Frost. The next Operation F.R.O.S.T vehicle is the T.S.M.A. that we're having a look at. Now, this vehicle is a twin-engined heavy fighter that is coming to the Soviet tech tree in rank 3, and it is sat at battle rating 3.7 right now in a realistic, and it gives you a interesting opportunity where you can actually change its main offensive armament. The T.S.M.A. has access to either 220mm and 237mm NS-37s, or it gives you access to 220mm and 245mm NS-45s. Now, if you want to know which guns these are, we already have them in game. They are actually on the Yak-9T in the form of the 37, and the Yak-9K has access to the 45. So if you want to know the capabilities of these guns, you can find them there if you don't have the T.S.M.A. The other thing to also note about the T.S.M.A. is, because you have these two different configurations, applications, there is always going to be a choice between them, whether you want to take the 45s or the 37s. Now, since you are not able to change your offensive armaments in battle, and I think, in my opinion, the Tisma, the best part of it is its multi-role ability to be able to be used as an actual fighter in a heavy fighter role, and then later used as a ground attacker. I think the only choice you can ever make when it comes to armaments is to take the 37mm. The 45mm only have access to one shell, and that shell is the H.E.A.T. It only pens 4mm. It is a complete air-to-air blow-up shell. It's supposed to hit a bomber or hit a fighter and just watch it pop, whereas with the 37mm you have the choice of either taking the air target belt, which is H.E.A.T, or you can take the armored target belt, which is A.P.T, which pens up to 60mm, which is good enough to even kill heavy tanks when it comes to air realistic. If we're talking about ground realistic, I mean, the choice is obvious. You take the 37mm to take the APT so you can actually pen stuff. And the fact is, because you have this gun which is able to do stuff against air targets in a very reasonable fashion, on top of the fact that it also has the ability to go after ground targets, there is no reason in my mind to ever take the 45mm. So we're going to look at it from the point of view of two 37s and two 20mm. The 20mm, the Shivaks, they have got a bad reputation over the last few years, mainly down to the fact that a lot of people see them not doing enough damage and also sparking quite a lot. The other problem as well is you don't really have the ammo count in a lot of vehicles to be able to do enough damage and to carry a game. The Tisma gets rid of this problem by giving you 150 rounds of 37mm and 300 rounds of 20mm, so you are never going to run out of ammo in this machine unless you are spraying like a madman. So therefore you don't have to worry about the ammunition counts. You easily have enough ammunition here to be able to get 5, 6, 7, 10 kills in a game if you need to. It only takes 1 or 2 37s to land in order for you to cripple a vehicle and then either finish it off, or it's already finished off because you ripped something off of it. The other thing to also note about the Tisma, which is something that it shares from a lot of its gift premium brothers in the form of the Soviet tech tree, like the I-29, it has extremely good maneuverability for a heavy fighter. This thing can stay in a dogfight for a very long time with many single engine fighters, and this isn't something that happens a lot with many twin engines. There's a few in the game which definitely can. The Bf-110G2 comes to mind, the Key 45 Co, but the majority of twin engine fighters, once they get locked on by a single engine fighter, there's not a lot you can do in it, and you generally have one good turn and then you're out of it. But because the Tisma has this really nice elevator on it and also good roll capabilities, you are able to tussle even with single engine fighters and a lot of the time come out on top in this machine. Another problem that I thought this might have is the fact that right now it gets an airfield spawn, so it has to climb up to altitude. Now it's able to climb up to 4,000 meters at a decent click. It says on the stat card it can only climb at 10.3 meters per second. I feel like it's a little bit better than that, especially since you can use war emergency power constantly and the engines on this machine will never overheat. That's never going to be a problem unless in very extreme circumstances. The other thing as well that I thought would be a problem with the Tisma is something that it can't really control, and that is the fact that the Swedish tech tree for aviation has just come out and a lot of people will be grinding it, on top of the fact, you know, that the tester stars are also getting to the point where people will get access to the Swedish tech tree. The thing is that because you have stuff like T-18Bs running around, which are also incredibly powerful twin engine fighter slash bombers, which I believe are going to go up in BR, then I thought the Tisma would struggle. But in my experiences, that isn't the machines that it's been struggling against. The machines it's been struggling against are the generic single-engine fighters, such as the Pyramirsky and other stuff such as the P-51 with the 20mm, or even machines like the Bf-109G2 Trop, which by all intents and purposes should annihilate this machine. So in the roles that the Tisma is designed for in the game, bomber hunting, twin engine fighter hunting, being a support aircraft and setting up 2-on-1s for your friendly fighters. It's incredibly good. It works well in all of these factors. Plus, we haven't even talked about the multi-role idea. That's just its fighter performance. In the secondary role, which could even be seen as its primary role, depending on how you see it, this is also an amazing ground attacker. The fact it has 150 rounds of 37mm. Remember, all you have to do is land one shell, one set of rounds, so 2 rounds of 37mm on the booty of a heavy tank. You can take out 75 heavy tanks in an aerialistic game with this. That is incredible potential for something which has a lot of guns which are very much centrally mounted, so you don't have to worry too much about convergence with. This means that you have a really nice hodgepodge of, a lot of ground attack potential against stuff like pillboxes, against stuff like heavy, medium, and light tanks. You can end games incredibly quickly with this thing if you have a group of, 3 or 4 of them on your side. On top of this as well, thank God it doesn't get an air spawn, because if it did, there would be no use in stuff like IL-2s, because the Tismas would have mopped up everything before the IL-2s get there. And while you are mopping stuff up, you have a 12.7mm in the back, a Berezin to keep you alive, and also, because you have that great elevator, you can generally survive until the fighters come to help you out. Overall, it's just a really nice vehicle to use in pretty much every aspect, and I would even say it's probably going to go up in BR, if I was going to be honest about it, just because of its multi-role capabilities. There isn't really a weakness that this thing has, apart from when it gets damaged by an enemy plane. It seems to set on fire quite easily, especially with these center fuel tanks in the fuselage. They go up in flames very quickly, and even though they're self-sealing, it doesn't seem to stop the thing from just exploding. And also, there's no real armor on the machine, so that's going to be a problem for it as well. The other thing from it that we haven't even talked about yet is its secondaries. Everything I've talked about right now is its primary weapons. Its secondaries, it gets access to 2 100s, 2 250s, 2 500s, 8 RS-132s, which are pretty much air-to-air rockets, and then air-to-ground ones in the form of RBS-132s, which have 85mm worth of pen. Now, these bombs, if you attach 2 500s, drop independently from each other. This means in a ground-realistic match, you are pretty much guaranteed 2 kills if you come in and use this as a bomb, as a bomber in ground-realistic, so that's 2 enemy tanks you can kill, plus you have 150 rounds of 37mm ammunition. And I don't have to tell you how good that is if you've ever used the Ag-9T in a ground realistic sense. It also, because of the elevator, means that you can keep on hitting targets such as tanks, setting them on fire, doing a lot of damage to them. I have a lot of appreciation for this fighter just because of the fact that it gives a lot of stuff in the game that I really enjoy, but it still has the inherent weaknesses of not being a single engine fighter. So for me, I really like this as an Operation Frost vehicle. It is also really fun to play, but I do think it's going to go up in BR. The only thing that's going to stop it from going up in BR is the T-18s, which should also go up in BR. The QF 3.7 RAM is the first vehicle that is available to you in the ground forces part of Operation Frost, and I really hope that people don't overlook it. One of the things that I've been talking to a lot of people about is obviously the new Macabre that is coming into the game. Many people have seen this as a second opportunity to either get their second Macabre, or if they missed out on the first one, to be able to get a Macabre, being one of those iconic vehicles from, of course, the Israeli nation. So a lot of people are going to grind through the Operation Frost ground vehicles and get the QF 3.7, but maybe not for the QF, instead for the Macabre. And in my opinion, this machine shouldn't be overlooked. It's still fun to use, it's still an interesting vehicle, and does really set up a lineup which is pretty fun in all of itself, the 5.0 British one. So the first thing to talk about with the QF 3.7, it is is very much an open-topped vehicle. Well, open-topped, I suppose it's completely open, with a gun shield on the front of it, with the OQF Mark II cannon on it, the 94mm. This is an AA gun, but it does have access to APC-BC, which pens 204, 164, 70, so it's going to be able to pretty much go through anything that you're going to fight, especially since a lot of the time you're going to be fighting 5.3, 5.7 against tigers and panthers. The only thing you may struggle against is the the panther upper front plate. It also gets a H.E. shell, which is completely useless. Just take the APC-BC and be done with it. It doesn't have any secondary armaments though, no smoke, no machine gun, no nothing to keep it alive against smaller vehicles. So this very much, in essence, is a tank destroyer by heart. It's very good at taking out machines which have a lot of armor on them, but it isn't very good at keeping alive against a lot of other vehicles that we've seen creeping into the game. Armored cars, anything with high velocity guns, anything with cannons, even 20mm will rip through this thing because it only has 10mm of armor on the front. So therefore, it's going to be good against a lot of conventional vehicles such as the Tiger, but it's not going to be great against a lot of the other vehicles which may be coming soon or are already in the game, such as, well, an obvious one is something like an R3 T20. So the fact is, with the 3.7 RAM, with the access to the gun that it has, it's a strong gun. It has good penetration, it does good damage as well. There's been many times where I've one or two shot vehicles that I've faced, and generally I believe it is an incredibly strong gun. The platform that it is on is maybe not the best platform for it though. It has some inherent issues with this. The first one is the binoculars. The binoculars on the QF 3.7 RAM are in my opinion, the wrong place. They are pretty much put on the back of the gun, where the breech is, a little bit above it, and because of the way that the crew is set out, you have two individuals in front of you, and what this means is you just end up staring at them a lot of the time, or you end up staring at the gun shield or the gun. So for me, I hope that the binocular view actually gets pushed forward a little bit, so you are in line with the two gunners on the front, and therefore you are able to actually see what is going on. The other inherent issue with it is the gun depression. Since this gun is actually mounted quite high on the vehicle because it's supposed to be used for an AA in real life, but obviously in War Thunder that's not the case, it only has -5 degrees of gun depression, and this means that you can get in a lot of situations where, just like you do with Soviet vehicles, where you're not able to get the gun down and attack enemies like you would want to do. So therefore it can lead to a lot of awkward situations where you're trying to get the gun down but it's not working. It reminds me a lot of the Lorraine 155 when that was added as an event vehicle back in the day, where there would be so many positions where I just want to hit them with this massive gun that I have, but unfortunately I can't because of the fact, that I can't get the gun down. Another thing to also note is when it comes to the ammunition, the left hand side as you're looking forward, ammunition actually fills up first compared to the right hand side, and this is obviously useful if you're fighting the machine or if you are trying to take so much ammo that you're not going to explode as easily. If you have a look at the amount of ammo which is sat on each side, you will find 9 plus 9, so that's 18, and then plus some extra ones in the form of 4 extras. So you get 22 pieces of ammunition per side, and then 44 in total. If you only take 22 rounds, which is what I recommend in this machine overall, you will only have ammunition on the left side of your vehicle, so therefore if they shoot the right side trying to hit the ammo, they're going to miss every time because it won't exist. So just take that into account when fighting this vehicle and also using this vehicle. Just take 22 rounds of APC-BC and you won't have to worry about the ammo on the right hand side of the vehicle. It's also powered by a 400 horsepower engine. Now this may not seem like a lot, but because this is a really lightweight RAM, meaning that they've pretty much stripped out everything when it comes to the general vehicle and just plonked a big gun on it, it does actually motor about at a decent speed. It can get up to 40 kilometers an hour. Generally the 0 to 20 is pretty good, and also the traverse on the vehicle from the hull point of view is great. It is kind of let down by the fact that its turret rotation speed is only 5.6 degrees per second, and also because of the fact that this is run by so many people in the top. There are 7 crew in total with 5 on the top of it. Once you lose a few of those crew members, the gun becomes excruciatingly slow to traverse and also elevate, which is another problem with it. Its vertical traverse is so slow once you get damaged, it just becomes painful to use sometimes. You also have 2 individuals in the hull. You have a driver and also a machine gunner / radio man. But what is interesting about the driver is some wonderful person has decided to cut a hole exactly where his head is. So if you want to take him out, you can just machine gun him. There is no armor protecting the driver at all, and also there is even 5mm behind him. So what you can do if you have a machine gun or anything like that, you can technically shoot into the driver, shoot through that 5mm block and hit the engine of this thing. So even if you have even a 7mm gun or only, let's say, a 50 cal, you can effectively kill this thing just through the front of it. But a lot of people have talked about this in the terms of the VFW, mainly calling it a mini VFW, a baby VFW, and it does have a lot of characteristics which are similar to it. You know, the open gun, the fact that it has decent maneuverability, but the one which I think stands out the most when we want to compare it to the VFW is, of course, the survivability. The VFW is one of those vehicles. It's a German 5.7 tank destroyer, which I will never use in the game, and the fact is, the reason why I will never use it is because it has a broken hull brake mechanic on it. The hull brake doesn't seem to work on it, and therefore you are plinking it and plonking it for at least 5 or 6 rounds before you can even kill the thing. The QF 3.7 RAM does this, but at a slightly worse rate, but you would expect that since the vehicle is at 5.0 instead of 5.7. But because the RAM is so open-topped, because of the fact that it doesn't have a lot of armor on the top, what a lot of the times will happen is you will get shot by stuff like Tigers and Panthers, the rounds won't go off, and they will just go through crew members, kill them, and not kill anything else. So I've been shot 4, 5, 6 times with this machine, and just haven't died. There was even a time where an SU-152 shot me straight blank in the side and I didn't die because the round didn't go off and it just went through and left a 152mm hole in the side of my vehicle. So the survivability of this is really good, apart from one aspect, and this is the same aspect that the VFW struggles with. Against planes, it's terrible against planes, because planes can just come from the top, they can kill 5 of your crew members without even thinking, and that leaves them 2 crew members that they have to kill. And once again, guess what this wonderful machine does as well? It has not just a hole in the front for the driver to look out of, for the machine gunner and the driver on the top. If you are coming down at a 90-degree or even, you know, a less steep degree, there are also holes there for you to shoot the driver and the machine gunner, so you don't have to penetrate any armor to be able to hit these 2 guys. Like, I have no idea, you know, what is going on when it comes to the survivability of this machine. Well, I do actually, because this was never designed to be on the front line. This would be a machine which is either near the back lines or definitely not on the front line, and would be used as area suppression, very similar to the flak guns that you find from the Germans near the end of the war. That was basically the job of what this would have been if it ever got past the prototype stage. If you want a useful way of killing it, because obviously I know a ton of people have been struggling with it, the easy way to kill it is shoot for the right hand side of it, hitting where the ammunition is and setting it off. The other thing you can also do is shoot straight through the bottom of the hull. This will kill the driver, it'll knock out the engine, and then all you have to do is machine gun the barrel, or just machine gun the gun mask, and you'll be able to kill everyone through there. Overall, it is going to survive more than one hit, which is great for it, but once, you know, it's hit hard, it loses a lot of its abilities, such as its maneuverability of its, you know, gun platform. It also has great optics, which is something that cannot be overlooked. Great optics on a machine like this means that you can stay back near the corners of the battlefield and do really well with it. It nearly has 800 meters per second of muzzle velocity, which at 5.0 is incredibly good. good, and because it's an AP shell, it's penning pretty much everything from long range, so as long as you can work out how far you have to lob the shells, you can do a lot of damage with it. And the crowning thing about the QF 3.7, even though I've talked about a lot of the problems that it has, including the reload, which I didn't mention, the reload is 7.8 seconds on my crew right now. If I look at its stock reload, or its base, is 7.8 seconds, and its top reload that it can get to is 6 seconds. So, the reload is okay, but it's not even as good as the Comet, which has an incredibly cramped turret, and I have no idea why the Comet has a better reload than the QF 3.7 RAM. It just seems kind of crazy to me. But anyway, the crowning thing about this 3.7 RAM, which is really nice, is the fact that it's 5.0. It has access to that really magical lineup, the 5.01, which you can have the Comet in it, you can have the Iron Duke if you have it, you can also throw in machines such as the Churchill, which do okay in an up tier, the Sherman Firefly, which isn't the best Sherman around the place, but it definitely is fun to use. You also have other stuff, you could up tier it, since its gun is definitely worth up tiering with stuff like the AC-4. You could even throw in, the Centurion Mark 1, since you play at 5.7 most of the time anyway, the Challenger, if you really feel like, tying some rope. But overall, you can see that there is a really nice lineup around it, and that includes, its planes as well, with stuff like the Brigand, stuff like the Spitfire F Mark 9C, or a bunch of other Spitfires, the Typhoons you could throw it in. It's just really fun, and also it makes a decent amount of money across the board. The British 5.0 lineup is really cheap to use, and overall just a very nice one. So if you are one of those people who likes to make money and just likes to have fun, the 5.0 lineup is perfect to do this. So I would definitely have a look at that. So yeah, those are the three vehicles when it comes to this first stage of Operation Frost. I'll probably do a similar video for the other vehicles when they come around. I would say I'm happy with all of these vehicles. I think they're great event vehicles. If I was going to make some suggestions, I would put the Tismar up in BR, and I would keep the QF as it is, maybe increase its reload a little bit, but everything else seems pretty good from me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, J. Wilt, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, Elove Goat, and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.